Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, the NFL season's back, kids. That's right. 2020 might be possibly the worst year in history, but it doesn't stop the NFL train from rolling. And me, my glorious co-host, Mr. Williams, are here to inform you of what's going on, predict a few games, and check in general. Like a numpty, I have managed to lose the audio for this podcast. Luckily, in the podcasting world, there's always a backup, but if you are fortunate enough to be watching this on YouTube, you're the only people that are getting this intro. Aren't you lucky? Yeah, not much that can be done. Sometimes it's just gone forever. So here we go. This is CookieCast, Laces Out, Season 3, Episode 1, we're back.
I'm wrong. I feel like we need the music. Ba, 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 da, da.
Well,
Right.
speaking of that, from a, I don't know if it's been an edition this year, but did you notice that on the draft, as soon as it started, it was like, it's the best day of the year, draft day.
Draft day. And then if you've cued anybody, the guy goes, "Oh, looks like they have their eye on him too," in the single American voice.
See, I didn't make any cues of any players, so I didn't do that. I was basically doing mine entirely blind, just sort of taking from the pack, as it were.
I like a little bit of a cue. Like I cue what you can see on the first page, just in case there's any internet issues and auto kicks in.
Yeah.
But then you sort of guaranteed something that's half decent.
True, that's true.
In case you haven't worked out, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking what some of us thought might not have happened. NFL football, baby! Blew out your ears.
He's most indeed back.
As is that sort of thing. I am known, in certain circles, very similar to Mr. Woodmansey, I am known as somewhat of a collector. Anything I can latch onto, I'll collect it. You know, psychological issues, all sorts of things. Anything that I can get my hands on to collect, I will. And I do like to mark occasions with a collection. You know, went to physically watch the American football 2 seasons ago. It was like, well, you know, I've got to get a hat, and I've got to get a football, and I've got to get this, and I've got to get that. And just, you know, I like to mark the occasion. So to mark this occasion, Season 3 of the NFL podcast, Season 5?
I think it's the 5th season of fantasy. So we've got won the first season. I believe Cole took the trophy in the second season. I believe it then passed. Oh, maybe it's season 6.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Because did it go Toots, Cole, Tim, Matt, and then James last season?
JFG last season, yeah. So
I can't think who he beat in the final. But
no.
Yeah.
No,
I don't even think it was a person who had quite a sizable lead from the first week of the final as well. So that wasn't.
We don't need.
Certainly wasn't depressing at all. So
we don't need to dwell on it. Let's not even factor it.
As discussed previously, I think I'm a little bit cursed when it comes to the fantasy. I don't think I'll ever get my hands on that trophy.
Speaking of getting hands on things, to mark the occasion, let's get rid of this weird, strange box that's in the way of seeing my glorious face. Picked up this little beauty today.
Ooh.
Check that guy out.
What's that class? Is that the Eclipse series?
The Eclipse series.
Is it supposed to be like glow in the dark style?
That is just really vibrant green.
Nice.
So the Eclipse series are a series of black, although I believe this one is just a very dark blue. But they're a series of black helmets with a variety of logos. I thought he'd sold the Seahawks one. And if he had have sold the Seahawks one, I'd have actually picked up the Rams, because a black helmet with that yellow new Rams logo doesn't have the LA in the middle. Really nice. Super nice. I was like, the Rams need to consider changing that to be their actual colours.
Yeah.
So we're back. Series 3, season 3. Threes. Obviously, like with everything, it's been a bit of one of them. I mean, it was coming down to the wire whether this season was actually going to take place, because players were not convinced that the NFL were doing enough as per virus protocols. There's been a variety of players who have taken the opt-out clause and have decided not to return. A variety of players who have moved teams last minute. You want to talk about Adrian Peterson, and dropped from the Redskins and promptly snapped up.
Can't say that anymore, Andrew. The
Huh?
Washington football team, I believe you will find.
Yes, sorry, the Washington football team.
Outback. So I listened to the Around the NFL podcast the other week, and someone pulled them up on that, and they were like, "How many times this season do you reckon people are going to get caught out by the Redskins thing?"
So many times, but how many times before somebody starts going, you can't say that. That's
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to make a mistake; it's another thing to turn it sour. But yeah, gone to the Lions.
Yeah, their backfield looks pretty stacked. They've got like 4, if not 5, like good running backs now. They've just drafted a new guy as well. So they've got Kerryon Johnson, now Adrian Peterson. I think his name's DeAndre Swift. I'm pretty sure they've got another couple of guys as well that are there or thereabouts. So they're as a team, you'd probably say they've got one of the strongest rushing attacks in theory, if everything falls about. I mean, obviously things can happen, and you don't know who's going to go down in the first week or the first couple of weeks or something like that. But as it stands on paper, I'd say they've got one of the strongest rushing attacks in the league.
Well, speak to Von Miller about things that go down in first weeks or the last play of training or practice or whatever you want to say. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Von Miller of the Broncos has exited for the season before the season's officially started. Has he broken his ankle? Snapped his ankle? It was ankle related.
I was just looking at this because it was on the NFL website. Just bear with me. Broncos Miller suffered dislocated peroneal tendon in ankle. So it doesn't even sound like as if he's like, unless he has broken bones as well, but he suffered tendon and like ligament damage, which is worse at times than breaking a bone. Because if you break a bone, when it heals stronger. But with tendons, you can't grow tendons back. Excuse me. So that's only going to get weaker in theory. So
yeah,
Like you said off camera, we may have seen, sadly, the last snaps of Von Miller's career potentially.
What I did say was, if that man does not go immediately into some form of presenting role, there is something wrong with him. I mean, that he is made for presenting.
He's very camera ready, isn't he? So
yeah, very much.
It's that sort of thing where like, you'd imagine him, Cam, they're the sort of darlings of the media, so to speak. So
yes, indeed. We have done our fantasy draft, as previously mentioned, season 6 potentially of the fantasy draft. It was a late night affair in some ways, but quite a swift affair in other ways. What could have run in the region of 3 hours ended up being like 40 minutes or something.
Yeah, it was less than an hour.
Yeah. I myself go up against my esteemed colleague week 1, which means that I will see him again later in the season. Speaking of weeks and seasons, this is the first season that we will see an additional regular season game.
Didn't think about that. I don't know if that's going to affect the playoff situation, because maybe they'll add in an additional week to the playoffs, or just an additional week to the regular season from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, from a fantasy perspective, that's one more week to potentially.
Didn't even think about that.
To men to win. So yes, at time of recording, I don't normally do this, but this is Wednesday, 26 minutes past 7, which would mean we are 20 hours away from kickoff, which is the Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, going up against the Texans.
Correct.
So very much it's big money quarterback versus big money quarterback, isn't it?
Certainly is.
Yeah, I mean between the pair of them, they break 300 million.
Oh, well, I think wasn't Mahomes' deal alone worth 500 million?
Yeah.
Granted, it was over 10 years or whatever, or however many years, but it was the first $500 million contract in sports history. So, yeah. So I saw that he proposed to his girlfriend. I can't imagine she was saying no anytime soon.
How many seconds do you think it took her to say yes? When it just went cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. I mean, obviously, that's not saying that she's motivated by millions and millions and millions of dollars. I'm sure he's a lovely man. What? What? So yes, football or American football, if you want, will officially be back tomorrow. It's my firm intention, to attempt to get members of our fantasy league involved in the podcast. Obviously, with the addition of Zoom, it makes it, in theory, it actually makes it easier for people to be a part of the podcast. I think we're going to stick to a similar format as last season, where we will be looking at more of the NFL games and less of the fantasy games, but there will be mentions fantasy-wise. Of all the things that I remembered to do before starting this, I haven't brought my book. It's over there. I could reach it, but I don't think my hand's long enough. Oh. He has a book, ladies and gentlemen. So, as with another well-known football podcast, last season we predicted the Super Bowl teams, the Super Bowl winner, and the MVP. 3 things to go at. The Stats Mistress was going to be available, however, at this point in time, she's indisposed. So we'll have to get her predictions between now and next week. Something else in the off season, I picked up for, as mentioned before, for collection purposes, but almost solely for podcast purposes. I'm pointing out there. I'm not gonna ruin it, but got a mini helmet collection which will be updated each week with the teams that are playing each other, and that will be a visual representation, a job that will be left to the Stats Mistress to take on. Not a small job by any feat. So yes. Now then, because the other thing we need to do is predict the actual games. I'm just wondering if I can get into the games. No, go away. Aha, I can get the games. So, shall we do a little bit of season-wide predictions?
So far, I've got this.
Super Bowl pick, Super Bowl teams, Super Bowl MVP. Perfect. Now then, I've already got a pick in my head, but I need to make sure that it's a viable option. I believe it's possible. Who's going first?
I'm currently writing mine in.
Hurry on. Done it.
Just do my tot up. Talk amongst yourselves.
It's just me and you.
That is absolutely true.
It is absolutely true. I can look at. I can try and find what the best game of the week's going to be. That's an unfortunate colour choice. Oh, there's a good game. Oh, that's game of the week for me. Oh. No, yeah, that's got to be game of the week right there.
I have my 3 picks.
Okay.
So, the teams that I believe will contest the Super Bowl, if you had your book, would be very similar to last season's pick. I have gone for, in the NFC, the New Orleans Saints. And from the AFC, I've gone for the Baltimore Ravens.
Interesting.
I have picked the Saints to win said Super Bowl. And the MVP, I have gone for Michael Thomas.
Ooh.
Sneaky, sneaky, sneaky.
Very interesting. I'm just going to move a curtain so I can get a better look.
So, Andy, you predict will make the Super Bowl?
So it's one of those rare times I'm actually going to say that I believe that we will once again see the Kansas City Chiefs going to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Team, I believe, if it's possible, which looking at what I can see from here, either I've set up completely wrong, or is a possibility the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Interesting. You're buying into the hype then, are you?
To start off with, it was like, this is the most ridiculous concept. 2020 was well and truly underway. 2020 was like, hey, not only have we fucked with absolutely everything, we're now going to start fucking with like American football teams for shits and giggles. But then as time went on, it was like, this team is starting to look seriously legit. This was the first year that I was like, I might draft Brady as my backup. It was a possibility. Did I draft? No, maybe. So that's where I'm at on that one. If that is the Super Bowl in question, I think it will come down to a quarterback versus quarterback scenario as far as MVP is concerned. See, it's a weird one because in a lot of ways I would be like Chiefs to cinch it, but the MVP to come from the other team.
So, from what I understand, that's only ever happened once in Super Bowl history where the MVPs come from the losing side.
Which, like, my gut is saying go with it, but my head's like it's not gonna be overly likely. So I'm gonna rip the band-aid off. Chiefs to win, Mahomes for MVP. Let's just have it done and done.
Okay.
So let's look at some games.
I'm to assume we might be getting Leanne's just pick when as and when.
I could find out. Right, that's that then. We had a different way of getting the games last year, which caused varieties of confusion.
It was interesting. We'll go with that.
I've just got them on the old Game Pass lineup. So I've got obviously we will both have the same game for the first game. We've got the Kansas City Chiefs, Houston Texans. Some of the colours are awful. Like
Before you start,
black.
Are we just doing just me and you picking, or again are we putting Leanne in this as well?
Leanne is going to pick a list of games, and she's also yeah. So, Chiefs Texans. For me, it's Chiefs all day long on that one.
I 100% agree.
The
Do
game.
you know what Leanne is picking?
Do I?
Do I?
You know what she's like. She's going to come back and be like, Texans all day on that.
Texans.
Texans, yeah.
In fact, give me Texans minus 10.5 or something like
In fact, stick 50 quid on it. I've got the next game I've got lined up here is the Seahawks versus the Falcons. I can't imagine it's any surprise that I'm saying Seahawks all day on that one.
Seahawks at Falcons. You wanted the Hawks? Falcons at home. Seahawks defense is looking a bit sketchy.
It is.
I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for the what I would deem an upset there. I'm going to go for the Falcons to get the W.
Do it. Next game I've got on the list here is Browns Ravens. I'll let you have first pick on this. I don't want to hog all those first picks.
Ouch. So Ravens at home. Oof. I do like the Browns. They're somewhat my team, as previously discussed now, but I do not like them in this game. I'm having a nice big slice of that Raven pie.
Yeah, stick me down for the same on that one.
Yes, sir.
The next game I've got on the list is the Jets versus the Bills. Personally, I'm going Buffalo Bills on this one.
Yep, same.
Bills.
I think the Bills
were very strong towards the back end of last season, and
Bills could be my sneaky outside pick for AFC Championship game.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, all over it.
Depending on if like things fall for them and stuff like that, I reckon they could go deep, as they say.
Have you done your pick for that one?
Yeah, Bills again for me. I think the Jets should the Jets should have a better season, but the Bills are definitely a stronger team. So
yeah. The Las Vegas Raiders.
That's something we didn't cover.
Is
the fact that there's been a team on the move.
Versus the Carolina Panthers. Speaking of teams on the move, what do you say to the rumor that they're going to merge the two Los Angeles-based teams?
Can't see it happening. The only way it'd happen is if they merge the two teams and then the Chargers reappear back in San Diego. I can't see either team's like supporters being happy. Obviously, if you merge the two teams, one which of the owners takes the sort of a hit. You know, I can't see the owners being happy with just having half of the profits or whatever you want to class it as to that. So I think whilst there's still desire to have two teams in LA, I think there will continue to be two teams there.
Is it your turn to pick on this?
Yeah. I think the Raiders are probably stronger, but Panthers are at home, and any team that's got Christian McCaffrey in it is always going to do well.
I mean, he was a one-man team last season.
Pretty much. New quarterback. I'm going to go. I'm going to go Raiders.
I am also going Raiders because I think just because it's a slightly more established team. Derek has been making some very bold statements over the last couple of weeks. So
Well, he's sick of the disrespect. So
next game on my list is the Bears versus the Lions. Saw a thing today that said, imagine a team where you turn down Cam Newton and someone else who I can't think right now for $1 million, yet take Foles for 21 million and then still put Mitch Trubisky as your starting quarterback.
The sense behind it makes absolutely zero. So
And underneath it just said, welcome to the Chicago Bears. As we were discussing, whether it was on or off camera, I can't remember at this point, but the Lions have just picked up Adrian Peterson, and there are various weapons. There was something going on with Stafford. I'm not sure whether there was a suggestion that he was going to go for the opt-out, but has turned up, practiced, and is listed as playing.
was it something to do with his wife? Was his wife either ill or trying to get pregnant, or
there was something going on, and there was a suggestion that he wasn't going to be playing this season, whether he was going to just use the opt-out clause as a way not to play. But there was something going on, and then the next thing I saw was like he's at practice. So, personally, I'm going with the Lions.
interesting?
They didn't have a great season last year. The Bears were so horrifically inconsistent that I think I'd just like to see the Lions do a little bit better this season. And the time to start that ball rolling is game 1, week 1.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't know. It's a weird one. It depends. If the Bears defense gets back to what it was 2 seasons ago, then there's no reason why the Bears can't have a decent season, because they've got some weapons and stuff out on the offense. So if they can get the defense playing again, they could get back to where they were 2 seasons. I'm gonna go for the Bears in this one, just because I think the Lions have still got a few things to sort of iron out and whatnot to make sure they're actually ready. Like I said before, I do like the running attack. I like the running. I like the run game. They've got depth. They've got weapons there, but yeah, Stafford didn't play pretty much all season, so he's going to have a bit of rust on him. So it'll take him a couple of weeks to get back to what he needs to be at, I think.
True. Colts Jags. You can have first pick.
So,
is this where
Jags
you make a convincing argument for the Jaguars?
No, this would be where I give my idea that the Jags smell. Well, they have the stench. To borrow a phrase from one of my favourite podcasters, Mr. Jim Cornette, they have the stench of grisly death on them, and I wouldn't be surprised if they have under 1.5 wins this season. So they just look to say they were what in the. No, were they in the AFC Championship game against the Patriots 2 seasons ago?
Yeah, season before last. They were in a.
So to say they were, what was it, like 90 seconds away from the Super Bowl or something ridiculous like that? to what they've just disintegrated into is absolutely catastrophic.
Yeah.
And I think we could be in for another long, hard season and a long time in the wilderness. Whereas for the Colts, obviously it's a bit of a start of a new era. They've got they've brought Philip Rivers in as the starting quarterback. Fair enough, he's old, he's getting on in years. Obviously, he came in the same draft class as Roethlisberger and Eli. One of those guys is already retired, and the other guy's just come back from elbow surgery, I think. Shoulder surgery, possibly. So, bit old. Maybe his last chance to win a Super Bowl. Probably the best team he's played with for a while. I think the Colts might be a lot of people's pick for an outside pick to get to the Super Bowl. The thing against them is that they're obviously in a conference that's really, really stacked with Chiefs, the Ravens.
Yeah.
So it'll be tough, but who knows? I've gone for the Colts, and I don't even think it'll be close, personally.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm all over that. That's there's absolutely no question for me on that one. Packers Vikings. Now this was very nearly my game of the week because I was like, "Oh, that looks real tasty." For me, I'm going Packers on this one, but I wouldn't be surprised if it went the other way on this.
Yeah, so I am going to pick the Vikings, mainly for the fact that I believe my saying of last year's podcast was the Vikings are at home. And the Vikings are at home, so
there's absolutely no way the Vikings are losing this one.
No, that's from a different podcast, Andrew.
Well, cross-pollination, isn't it?
That is true.
One of those games that it always comes up and it's just on paper it sounds awful, and the majority of the time it's always entertaining. The Dolphins versus the Patriots. Newly without Tom Brady, but with Cam Newton, New England Patriots.
Now, is this... I don't know if I've got this right, but it's at New England. Did the Dolphins beat them at home last season? And possibly the season before?
Well, this is what I mean. This is why, on paper, Dolphins-Patriots should be a snooze fest. And it never is. Was it not last season, the season before, that the only team to beat the Patriots twice was the Dolphins?
Could have been. I think that was that the one where they classed it as the Miami Miracle, where they had they put Gronk in on defense to sort of like to try and back the ball out of the receiver's hands, and he totally fucked it up.
Yeah.
And they ended up scoring anyway. Yeah. But is it something ridiculous? Like, if the Dolphins win, this would be their third win in a row at Gillette Stadium.
Yeah.
So.
And part of me, like, should we just go with the Dolphins on this one just for entertainment value?
I don't know, Andrew. Do we just go with the Dolphins on this one?
I am the first man in the queue to talk about my dislike for Cam Newton. I am also a man who owns a Cam Newton jersey. For me, Cam at the Patriots fits so well because I can't stand Cam Newton. I can't stand the Patriots. So the two go together so well that you know what? Fuck it, Miami Dolphins.
Andrew, You're an absolute mentalist.
I know I am. I'll remind you of that next week when I'm going. Just talk up that point there, shall I?
So the reason I'm picking the Patriots is, one, I think they're a stronger team. Two, you'd imagine that Cam will want to come out firing. He'll want to come out all guns blazing. And I reckon his arm could be pretty hot. I think it'll be. Well, from a fantasy perspective, let's just put it this way: I'm hoping for a rather big day from one Mr. Cam Newton.
He'll be too busy picking which hat to wear, and he'll miss the fucking game.
Have you seen the size of his hair at the minute? He won't be fitting a fucking hat on his head. His hair's massive. I believe there's only one game left in the 6 p.m. slot.
Yes, because then it switches to 4 days, 1 hour. So the final game of the 6 p.m.s is the Eagles versus the well thought out, newly named Washington football team. Who plays for the Washington football team?
Alex Smith.
Who else?
Dwayne Haskins.
Like, when they were like, oh, we're going to drop Adrian Peterson, I was like, no, I don't know anybody that plays for you.
Oh, they've got a wide receiver called Terry McLaurin that's supposed to be pretty good.
Yeah. I can't see anything other than an Eagles win here. The Washington football team, as they will now be known, or for this season will be known, because apparently it's only a temporary name change. I don't think they've got anything to write home about. I honestly think they are going to coast through this season, barely getting off the ground.
Surely you'd imagine that they just, at this point, because the team is so weirdly bad, just tank for the season. And I can't remember his name, but there's a quarterback who was scheduled to go in this year's draft, or the end of this season's draft, who was supposed to be pretty decent. Obviously, the worse you are, the better draft pick you get. So it could just be a case of they just willing to right off the season and just start the rebuild from now for next season on for like 5 seasons time. So
yeah,
but who knows? I'm with you. I've gone Eagles all day.
The 9:05 game is the Chargers versus the Bengals. This, for me, is a very difficult pick because it's basically a dross-off.
Agreed.
I imagine. In fact, no. Do go first with your Bengals.
So Chargers have probably got the stronger team in theory, but obviously the Bengals have got the number 1 pick. All eyes will be on them. So it's going to be Joe Burrow's first home game. Obviously, there's not. I don't know if the Bengals were one of the teams that said they're not going to have any people in the stands, or they're just going to work at reduced capacity. But obviously, that might all bite the dust anyway if the world decides to go back into semi-lockdown or whatever. But I'm going to go for the Chargers just because I think it might take Burrow a little while to get used to getting smashed in the mouth by the defensive line and stuff like that. So, I'm going to go Chargers.
You and me both. Right, here we go. I'm saying it here and now. Game of the week. You all heard it here first. This man's pick for game of the week is the newly minted, in a lot of ways, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, possible Super Bowl contenders, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, versus what, let's face it, year in, year out, is always a Super Bowl contender, New Orleans Saints. This is going to be tidy. And if this had been any other year, I'd have been like, well, it's going to be the Saints, hands down. Not this year. Saying it here and now. I think this is going to be where certain members of the Buccaneers need to put a few naysayers to rest. I think that they're going to come out strong. There's going to be Gronk spikes left, right, and centre because Gronk has had a particularly low projected score for this season. Obviously, he is a little injury prone. And the people are expecting that he'll take an injury early on and go out early on. Just happened before. I'm not saying it won't. But that team looks like a world beater. There's a little bit of upset in the Saints. Obviously, we've had our Alvin Kamara incident. Or we're open to trade offers for Kamara. Maybe should have told him that first, yeah. So, and obviously, Drew's had a little bit of fire in the off season. So, personally, I'm saying Buccaneers for this. I think this is a possible. They come out real strong.
I agree in part. However, I think if you were to ask any of the Bucks team, who's the one team you don't want to play first game of the season? They don't want any part of going into the Superdome to play the Saints opening day. So I've gone for the Saints just because I think they are not necessarily the best team in the NFL, but I think they will win the Super Bowl season. So
I don't disagree. That is one of those where it was very much that could quite easily go either way. So
yeah,
I'm all for that. Next game on my list is Cardinals 49ers. I believe it's you to go.
So there's always that team in that had done well the season before and then just absolutely falls off a cliff. I think it's going to be the 49ers this season. I don't know why, but I think it came out sort of towards mainly in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl last season, that maybe Jimmy Garoppolo's not the quarterback that everyone thought he was. Maybe he's not that great. Maybe he's not that reliable. I mean, if you look at the rushing stats for the games against the Vikings, and I believe it was the Packers in the NFC Championship game, I think total air yards was less than 250 for both games combined. Something ridiculous like that. So it wasn't. I don't know if it was a case of they just didn't trust him to throw the ball, or they felt that the running game was much, much better. But
as a quarterback, Garoppolo basically became a guy who could hand the ball off. As far as those back end games, I think they were getting a little antsy, and they were like, "We don't want to shit the bed now, so let's play it nice and safe, nice and secure, and let's just hand that ball off." And that's what they did consistently through the back end of that season. Whether that cost them the Super Bowl, obviously for the 49ers, what you're talking about there wouldn't be the first time for them. A team that goes to the Super Bowl and then shits the bed the next season. that's got 49ers written all over it, or Panthers. So who are you going for? Cardinals?
Oh, I've absolutely gone Cardinals.
Really?
I think Kyler Murray's had a year behind him.
Who have the Cardinals just picked up?
I don't know about just picked up, but they traded for DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be strong, personally. So that is probably going to be the best division to watch, because you've got Cardinals, Seahawks, 49ers, and another team. Oh, the Rams. So yeah, Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals, 49ers. So in theory there, you've got 4 teams that could quite comfortably get 10 wins, possibly. So could be an interesting shootout there to see who makes the playoffs and whatnot. So, but yeah, I've gone Cardinals.
49ers for me. Speaking of the Rams, they will be facing America's team, the Cowboys.
Oh, hang on.
This is one of those games that, I mean, you know, going back to teams that shit the bed after having gone to the Super Bowl, I give you the Los Angeles Rams, ladies and gentlemen, and the wildly inconsistent Dallas Cowboys. And there's not been that much change at the Cowboys. We've still got the wildly overpaid Dak Prescott handing off balls to Zeke. So is Jason Witten playing this season, or is he going to just come back halfway?
He's gone to the Raiders. Jason Witten's at the Raiders.
Couldn't manage the 17th season playing for the Cowboys. In a lot of ways, it pains me to say it. And this was a man who was well and truly behind the Rams at one point in time, but put me down for the Rams for this one.
I have gone the opposite way. I have gone for the Cowboys. Obviously, I've got a friend who's a big Cowboys fan, and he's well, he says it every year, but he's very much of the opinion that the Cowboys are going all the fucking way. So
this is their year. This is their year. Their year.
They're almost like Liverpool fans, but obviously
I was so close to saying that. Then. It's like the Cowboys, the Liverpool of
yeah.
football. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going up against the New York Giants.
The Pittsburgh
Now
Steelers
has been mentioned, and I'm pretty sure I've seen that this is a thing. Roethlisberger is back. Correct?
Yes.
And obviously, you know, the Giants. Your pick.
I think the Giants are also one of the worst teams in the NFL. However, they fall into that category of they have one absolute stud player, so potentially could he get it done for him? I know you hate him because you had him last season.
That stud player that I mean, I presume he must have been lying down on the field for 16 games for fantasy point-wise being absolute dog shit. That player, is that the one that you're talking about? Because
that might be the guy I'm talking about.
So you
but yes, I've gone for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, stick me down for the Steelers as well, please. And our final week 1 football game: the Titans versus the Broncos. A little conflicted on this one. I believe in at least one fantasy league, have Mr. Derrick Henry. But, gun to my head, I would have always said Broncos is like my number 2 team. So it's a difficult pick. Titans were amazing, certainly towards the back end last season, but as previously, as I've just mentioned, largely to do with having an amazing running back who has amazing hair. Again, might be a little bit painful to say this, but I am going to go Titans for this, which is almost unheard of. I have the Stats Mistress's picks. Would you like me to send them to you? Or would you like
Yes,
me
please.
to rattle through them? I'll send them.
If you forward them through, that can be a little taster for the fans to tune in next week and see what Leanne picked. They can even predict what Leanne predicted, and they can find out next week if they were right.
Predict a prediction. That's like a fourth wall break inside a fourth.
Seriously, we've gone proper full Inception with that. So yeah, if you send them to me, and I'll add them to the slate.
They are winging their way to you as we speak. She hasn't given me an MVP. I will get one from her.
Yeah, she's picked exactly the same game as I have.
Maybe she's listening to the live feed. I've informed her that she needs to update her picks. That basically is week 1 in a nutshell, ladies and germs. I'm going to get it out to our fantasy gang, our peeps, about doing some kind of week in, week out podcast type situation. So I look forward to seeing either these 2 faces, 3 faces with the Stats Mistress, or multiple boxes all over the screen to look at. Also, there's a couple of people on a list that I am intending to also try and get involved, and maybe do some kind of bigger than the fantasy league. So that's it. There we have it. Podcast 1, season 3, week 1. However many other things I can put at the end of the laces out. Podcast is back.
Certainly is.
Is indeed. Thank you to you, sir, for joining me. I will see you next week for more fancy fun. And as somebody said to me today, and I was like, the next time I see you in this situation, we will have actual football to discuss. Actual real life football.
It's going to be
There we go.
sweet.
Thank you very much, and I will catch you anon.
Au revoir.
Bye.
So there we go. What do you think to that? Season's back. We're back. Podcast isn't back. Everything's back. Apart from my ability to correctly code an audio podcast. That's not back. That has apparently left the building. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're only people getting this outro. The audio kids, no, not for them. I'll get there one of these days, I'm sure. Just not today. Obviously, if you are watching on YouTube, you'll be a subscriber. If you're an audio listener, you'll know nothing about this. So, bonus content for being on YouTube, and for that, the sum of a little subscribe is not too much to ask. I assure you. Do jump over to thecookiecast.com, check us out over there, send us some form of love, send me some love because I'm having an absolute nightmare right now. And yeah, check in next week, see how we did in those predictions, see how it's going, see if I can actually do it. Yeah. Anyway, I'll see you then. Bye.